Now, I will be the first to admit that I am not the biggest racing game fan, and I do not regularly play simulation-style racing games. The extent of my experience is with a little bit of Gran Turismo over the years, as well as Grid on Google Stadia, but I do not play a lot of racing sim games, so this impressions will be from someone that usually plays more arcade-style racing games, such as the Burnout series, Midnight Club, and Need for Speed. Those are more my style, as well as games like Mario Kart and Blur and Wipeout and other more unrealistic racing games. That being said, these impressions will be from the perspective of someone that is new to the series and is new to the rules of F1 or Formula 1 racing in general. If you are familiar with the series, then a lot of this might already be common knowledge to you, but in the case of me, it was mostly new. During character creation, you get to choose basic things like your face and general look of your character, as well as naming them, assigning them a number, and even getting to pick the name that the announcers will say out loud. For me, I have a bit of an unusual last name, so there was not an option, so instead I just went with something more generic like The Professor because it sounded cool in my head. Whenever it comes to actually playing the game, I noticed that there are a lot of great options. There's a really robust career mode. There's even split screen multiplayer that you can choose, as well as Grand Prix and other solo options, in addition to the online multiplayer offering. So there is a lot here on offer for racing game fans. For someone like me that jumped in pretty much entirely blind, I will say that F1 2020 actually plays very well. I did one of the early F2 category races to get my bearings, and I didn't really have much trouble jumping in head first. The most important thing to keep note of is that it is a very long race. It is not just a simple 3 laps like a lot of more arcade style racing games, and it is very unforgiving. If you bump into another car, if you cut corners, if you do things that are against the rules, you do get deducted seconds from your time at the end, and there's realistic damage to your vehicles as well that you might need to make a pit stop and tend to, and things that you really have to be aware of. This isn't a game where you can slam into other cars and knock them off the road or try to zip ahead of people by scraping up against the side of their vehicle. This is a very more realistic style racing game. That being said, they really did nail the intensity and the ferocity of these engines and the cars and what it feels like to drive at these high breakneck speeds. It was a very satisfying game to play, and it did feel great. I was playing with an Xbox One controller on my PC using the Chrome browser version of Google Stadia, but that's where I got the footage. But I did also try playing the game on my phone using a Razer Kishi, as well as on the Chromecast Ultra on my TV, and it played well on all devices. I noticed a couple moments where it would kind of skip a little bit in terms of the Stadia performance, but that is not an issue with the game itself. Generally speaking, I would say that it performed very well, very comparable to any other racing game on the platform. And there you have it. That's F1 2020. I have not played the game extensively. I've really only spent about an hour tinkering around with it. If you are a fan of these types of games, I think you will enjoy it. If you're a fan of the F1 series, I think you will love it. And I think there is still enough there to entice people that are looking for another racing game on the platform, even if you're not experienced with the genre necessarily. So